Hello everyone and welcome to Great Deltan. Today, as the title suggests, we're going to be doing a layout in a week. As I say a week, I mean 7 days, not consecutively, or 7 sessions. I've got 12 days off from work now, so I want to get this all done within that time frame. Obviously I won't be in the shed every night as I don't think the other half would appreciate it, but hopefully we can get this done within 7 sessions. Now this obviously isn't going to be anything like Great Deltan Mark 1, it's just going to be something that I can run trains on with a bit of basic scenery as to see me through till next year when I move, so I don't have to be completely without a layout. It will have a little bit of scenery because I quite like watching the trains going through the scenery, and it's just going to be nice, easy, broad radius curves, so there's no derailment issues. They'll be super elevated because I like the look of them, and obviously as I said there'll be a little bit of basic scenery. Now, with the baseboards, as you see in the dismantling video, I've kept that one, and then I've replaced that one, that one, that one, and that one, and the passover as well. These are all sitting under these 9mm boards, the new ones, and then obviously the remnants of the old layout are still seen under this. I'll explain what that's for in a sec. I've got a time schedule I'm going to try and keep to, so I've got different tasks for each day which I want to try and get done. The budget for this layout is about £300. I've spent about £100 already getting all the wood and refurbing some of the boards, so that's obviously some of it gone, and then I've had to spend some on track as well, so the rest will be spent on the scenery. So I'll just talk you through the basic layout of what I have planned. You see this curve here is drawn out. I just hit my head on the light. That is all going to be cut out. You'll see that these 9mm boards are sat on top of these 12mm boards, and that is because the whole thing's going to be raised by the thickness of these joists. So all of that's going to, all of that will be raised. That's going to be cut out and scrapped, and then we'll have a nice sort of embankment here, and then the rest of it will all be raised up to that height. Everything around here will all be raised. So it's just going to be a couple of loops of track, as I said, broad radius, super elevated, shouldn't have any derailment issues or uncoupling. Be nice to be able to run all of my pieces of stock without any issues, especially my pendolinos. And then over here, what I have planned is a sort of like a workbench. So the tracks will go under the sort of tunnel portal, come around here, come out again here, and then up here I can have all of my weathering bits, my paints, my air compressor, soldering iron, and then I can use that space to get on with all of my stock projects which I want to achieve. I'm going to have to make that board removable so I can still clean the track, as I'm still in the same environment, meaning that track is exposed to the elements. But at least then I've got a permanent setup and I can get all of the crap off that shelf which is overflowing a bit at the minute. Right, so I won't ramble on any further and we'll get on with it. So today is day 1. And we're going to be looking at getting all the baseboards done and all the woodwork. So what I need to do basically is first cut out where I've drawn, and then I can get a template of where I need to lay all of these joists. So we'll get on with that first. I'll just cut out with a jigsaw and then we'll see how it looks. Wood is cut out, I've drawn up around it and I've got my template, so we can get on with cutting all this up and sticking it down to create a base for that layer. I'll just be sticking it down with some Gorilla Glue, or might be nailing it, we'll see. I'll have to check this baseboard over here though, as there's a slight peak around here, as I think when the floods got in December of last year, it warped one of the MDF boards which holds the layout up. And obviously the floor is made of pallets with loft boards, but there is one section at the back there where it is not supported, and there's one leg at the back of the layout which sits on that unsupported board, and I think it's sort of sunk and the layout's gone like that because the water got into the MDF during the floods. So I'll have to see what I can do about that. It's no biggie, it's just it would obviously make for better running and some better shots, otherwise the trains are going to be sort of doing that as they go over that peak there. So we'll get on with that next and then we'll get back to you. Okay, so I've started off and I've got to about halfway through, but I've massively underestimated how much wood I would need to elevate this bit of board. I've done that and I've got round here, but all of that needs doing, and of course I need to do all these sort of cross beams. So I'm going to have to go out to Homebase tomorrow and get some more wood, as it's closed now, it's quite late, and then I can continue. With this bit of board, obviously it dips at the end, so what I've just done is cut up some of my 9mm MDF and sort of used it as some blocks to pad it out, try and level it out best I can. I'll have to do that in several places because of the warping of the boards, but hopefully it's going to be fairly level once all that's done. So I guess day one will sort of carry on into day two. Obviously I didn't want to have to do that, but well, unplanned things happen. So I will see you tomorrow with some more wood. To get right, but all the bracing is now done and everything's elevated ready for the board to go on. I'm a bit delayed at the minute, as you may know, because I had to get some more wood today and I need to hold again. I need to pause because what needs to be done next is the boards are going on top, but I'm going to be nailing them, and it is currently 1:30 in the morning, so I don't want to be hammering around disturbing the neighbours, so I'll get that done during the day tomorrow. So yes, day one is technically dragging into day three, but nonetheless, we're moving forward. You may notice there is quite a lot of bracing. That is because I'm using 9mm MDF on the top, as opposed to the 12mm which makes up the baseboard. I'm just doing that because it's about £17 a board for that, where it's about £9 for the 9mm MDF. Over here, I've used all of these pads to sort of try and level it all out. I've done the best I can. It is really bad over there where the baseboard has sunk because of the flood damage to the support boards down the bottom, but it's all ready to go, so I'll join you for when we put the baseboards, the elevated boards on, and then that'll be all the woodwork done for now. I've got a bit more to do when I build the shelf for my workbench, but next job will be track laying on day 2. So yeah, let's get on with that. Okay, so all of the boards are now nailed down, they're nice and secure, and overall the baseboard's looking quite level. In the meantime, I have also popped my DR5000 in place and wired it to my DCC bus, which I kept in from the old layout. So it's day 2. Technically, obviously the first stage stretched over 3 days, but I guess we can condense all the time that was used within those 3 sessions into one day. So this is day 2 and we're going to start track laying today. As mentioned numerous times previously, I will be comprising this whole layout of flexi track. So I've got several lengths here of the concrete stuff, and then I've got 2 more boxes which I bought a while ago for a future layout if I ever needed them, so I can dig into those. So we've got our embankment area, and then we've got this area here which is all just going to be laid freely. There's not really much I can tell you about laying track, it's just pretty standard for me. The only difference is I'll be using this card of a couple of different thicknesses to super elevate the track to give it that nice banked feel. So I'll show you how I do that in a sec. These are 2 thicknesses. Obviously the thicker stuff will be used for the more tight corners, and then the thinner stuff for the more broad radius stuff. I think that's all. We've got some track pins and our fish plates, and then we've got this bit of wood which I'm going to use for spacing between the tracks. Distance between centres is roughly 4 metres in real life. That equates to about 2.7 centimetres, which is about that sort of distance apart. I'm not quite keen on that. I'd rather have them a bit further apart just to fill up this area a bit more. So I'm going to use this block. I've got my pen mark so I know which way down it's facing, so it's consistent all throughout. I tend to push pins in with a pair of pliers as opposed to hammer them to not damage the track or bend the pin, and it's just quieter. So we'll get on with that next. I've got my rail cutters and my file as well, as obviously with flexi track you need to cut it. Once all the track is laid, I will then add all the dropper wires to the bus system. I need to add a bit of wire down here because I took that out when I redid the boards, and that's the only bit that's missing, but I've kept all of the old exposed wire. I just unsoldered all of the old wires from it, so I've got all these numerous spaces in which I can now solder my droppers to, so it'll be nice and easy. Okay, so I've laid 2 lengths of track now. It's all a nice radius which I'm happy with. You'll see that I haven't pushed the pins down completely. So this is for the super elevation. What I should be able to do is just lift the track up a little bit, in theory, and it'll slide up the pins, and that'll give me the space underneath then to slide some card. Just move those sleepers for a sec. So I've got the thinner card and I've got 2 layers of it, and I'm literally just going to slip it in there on the outer rail. I've got it in little sections so I can keep with the curve as such. Put 2 together and then just pop them on there like that, and then once they're all in place I can then push the rail down, and then once the pins are fully in the board, that sits at a nice angle then. I'm not sure if the camera can pick that out, but from here I can see it's angled, and then we've got a nice super elevated track. So we'll continue now, and we'll lay all the track until we've got 2 full loops, and then we'll talk about dropper wires. Okay, so that's all of the track now laid, and I'm quite happy with how it's turned out. There's a couple of parts which I haven't done as well as I wanted to, but overall I'm genuinely very happy. So now we can move on to doing the dropper wires. I've already done one set over here. It's the easiest to do on the bridge because I can just drop them straight down the baseboard. So just your standard droppers, you've got a bit of solder on the side of the rail, and then you've got the wire connected to it. I prefer to do it after I've laid the tracks, just because it gives room for adjustment then, as opposed to soldering on the bottom of the rail and sticking them through pre-drilled holes. From there they just go down under the baseboard, and then they come up the front here, and then soldered to my bus wire, which as stated I had kept from the old layout. So there's I've got I think overall 19 sections of track, or 17 sections of track, sorry. So I've done 4 there. I can do 4 over here where these joins are all bunched together, and then I've got one more set over there, and then these ones which will be covered by the workbench, which I can just surface mount, bring to the front on top of the board, so that'll be nice and easy. So let's get on with those then, and then that will conclude the track laying. Okay, so all of the dropper wires have now been done, and I'm just giving it its maiden voyage. I'm not running anything too heavy or too fast, as all of the pieces of card which super elevate the track are just in loosely at the minute, so they can easily slide out with a bit of vibration. So just running this test train, excuse me, I'm lying on the layout while I have the chance. So I'm just running this test train which I had for the dimensions around the track. So yeah, everything is looking quite nicely, to be honest. This concludes day 2 of track laying, and we shall move on to day 3 tomorrow. So I'll just leave you with a couple of running shots, and then we'll move on to day 3. Right, welcome to day 3. Today we're going to be sticking down the trackside details. Obviously this isn't going to be anywhere as detailed as the previous layout. We've got some platform edging just to form a couple of platforms for the small station, and then we've got some trunking to go along the side, and then we've got this strip of plastic card which I'm going to cut into small squares which will form the bases of the overhead line masts. Got a couple of tunnel portals to go each side to take it under where the workbench will be. And then we've got these 2 line side signals which I'm just going to permanently have as green, as opposed to going through the effort of wiring them through a switch. So most of this is just going to be stuck down with super glue. I'm going to weather the platform edges ever so slightly to make them look a bit more realistic, along with the trunking, probably with my Humbrol black wash, maybe a couple of other paints or weathering powders, and maybe the same with the tunnel portals as well. So let's go on with this now, and then we shall join you when that's all done. Okay, so that's all the track details put in. We've got our tunnel portals, we've got all of our overhead line bases. I've wired in and installed 2 signals which are both wired permanently green, and then we've got our line side trunking. I'm not going to put the wires into the signals, they can just be imagined. As we come around, more of the same, and then we've got the 2 station platforms which have been lightly weathered with a paintbrush. That might be neatened up once the ballast is done. And then we finish up with our tunnel portal. So now I'm at the point where I can be ballasting, however I'm sort of going to do the next stage in a bit of an odd order, because we've got these fine bits at the end of the embankment. I don't want all the ballast to fall off there, and I've got to do this embankment in the sort of sculpt mould stuff, so I don't want to cover that in sculpt mould accidentally. So what I'm going to do is probably do the lower embankment, all of that around here and the back, and then I can ballast the track, and then I can work on the hillside around here, which is just going to be a small hill which will sort of merge with the workbench which I've got up here. What I've got here is a bit like the Woodland Scenic Sculptor Mod stuff, apart from it's just from Amazon and it was about £5 a bag. I've got 3 bags, I'm probably going to need a lot more, but at least I can get an estimate of what I need, and it's 1-day delivery on these, so I can just buy more. So hopefully these 3 will be enough for just the lower embankments, and then the only other bit of hillside I need to do is both tunnel portals, and what I plan to do with the station is have, well, to save filler, I'm going to put a big board of wood just on top here and the other side, and then fill in the gap between, so the sort of the platform is level with the surrounding hillside, and then that'll just need merging into the board with the sculptor mould. So let's get on, let's mix some of this up. It takes 500ml of water and a whole bag of this. It says it's workable for about 10 minutes and then sets in 20. It's fairly warm in the shed tonight, so hopefully it will, and hopefully we can get a fair bit of this embankment done, and then I can start ballasting. Well, we've done this much before we run out of powder, so a lot less than what I was expecting obviously, and I'm probably going to need to order about another 8 bags to do the rest of the embankment and then to complete the tunnel hills. So we're at a halt with that, however I do still want to get this done on time, so I'll have to get on with something else while I wait for those to come in. Hopefully there'll be 1-day delivery with Amazon and they'll come in by Tuesday. Today is Sunday. In the meantime, where there aren't going to be areas of massive use of the plaster, I'm going to start ballasting so I can get on with just inside the tunnel and get all this ballasted down to the platform and through here. Nothing new for the ballast, usual stuff. In there is my water and fairy liquid, PVA, brush for ballasting, and then my actual ballast. I've changed the colour again from what I've used in the old layout. This time I'm using the Woodland Scenics grey blend, as I want it to contrast a bit more with the concrete track. The only bit of concrete track I had in the old layout I ballasted light, and you couldn't really see the sleepers very well, so I'm hoping they'll stand out a bit more in this ballast and they'll look a bit nicer. So that concludes the end of day 3. In a way, I'm ahead of schedule, as on my planner I'd only planned to have the track details done by the end of the day, not only of the scenery, so it's nice to have some ballast down, and of course the embankments. I've done a little bit of ballasting over here as well, because that can be done. So on day 4 I guess we'll just carry on with the ballasting as much as I can, and then once the plaster stuff comes in we can carry on with the embankments. And I can also start building this workbench as well, because that needs to go up at some point so I can finish the hills around here as well. So lots to do, but it's all going well. I don't know at this point if I'll finish on my schedule, but at least it's going to be quicker than spending 2 years on a layout. Right, welcome to day number 4. Today we're going to be cutting this bit of wood, which is going to form the infill for the platforms and the surrounding areas. And we're also going to start cutting the wood for this workbench area. I've got a load of 9mm MDF I'm going to use for that, and this 12mm board which is going to sit on top of it all. And then this board here is 12mm thick, which is roughly the same thickness as the platforms, so hopefully I can save the ton on filler by not having to fill this entire area with poly filler. So let's get on with that, and we'll see how it looks. Welcome to day 5. Yesterday was cut a bit short. I didn't have another chance to go in the shed after I initially cut all the wood, so we're a little bit behind schedule, but I've got a good length of time in the shed tonight and I have a lot that I want to achieve. So all the wood that you see there is for the workbench. I've got a board of MDF outside which is cut to the right size. I've got some longer lengths there. The wood for the platforms is cut and screwed down so that can have the poly filler in. So I've also got 8 bags of this plaster stuff now, so hopefully I'll have enough to finish off all the embankments and all the hillside. So there's a lot to get done tonight, and hopefully with everything else done I can continue on with the ballasting, and by the end of the night I'd like to have pretty much all of the embankments done, most of the ballasting, and have the workbench built, and if I get time I will do the poly filler for the platforms as well, because that needs doing, as that's going to need probably a couple of layers as it tends to shrink once it's dried. So without any further mumbling, let's get on with things, as there's a lot to do. Okay, so this is the stage we are at. The embankments are all finished. It's a bit of a mess, not gonna lie. I'm not particularly good at controlling where it goes. I have infilled the ends of the platform to ease them down onto surface. That just needs a bit of tidying up as well. I've done the first layer of filler for the platforms between the wood and the edging, and I've done the same over here. And I've run out of powder again before I could complete that and that, which are the hillside areas which merge the tunnel portals. But I'm at a stage where I can start painting. I'm going to get some of the painting done before I continue ballasting, so I can get a base. Obviously with here I'm going to be painting, and I don't want to get brown paint all over the stones, so it's going to be easier if I just do all the painting first, I think, so I can start doing some scenery. I'm just going to paint the base in a burnt umber brown, and then I can carry on with the ballasting, and then we'll do all of the rest of the scenery after that. But pretty much everything you see is going to be in that burnt umber brown, apart from the station platforms and obviously the parts that aren't completed at the minute. So we'll get on with some painting and then we'll call it a day, I think, as it's getting a bit late. This is obviously day 5. I've got day 6 and 7 left, which was primarily meant to be for scenery and details, but it might overflow a bit, we'll see. Obviously the static grass and scenery is going to take a while because there's a big area to do, as it's a very basic layout. But we'll see if we can still be on time. The ballasting is going to take a good deal of time as well. I've probably done about a quarter of what I need to do, maybe nearly a third. So we'll see. Right, welcome to day 6. There is, again, lots to do today. I did come in here for an hour last night to do some more ballasting, so I'm round to the aspect signal. I've got this left to do, so hopefully I can get that done tonight. I've also done the second layer of filler on the platforms. It was just hard enough to sand and then put the next layer on, so I'll leave that to dry for another couple of days. So it cures very well, and when it's rock solid I can sand that down, and hopefully that'll be ready for painting. I've got 2 more bags of the plaster powder at my postal address, because I don't get post here on the holiday park, so I need to go and collect those later. Then hopefully I can finish those hillsides. I've been to home base today already and just cut the last 2 boards to fill the gaps, so the workbench is pretty much all solid now. So really what I'm going to do now quickly is have a bit of a tidy up so I can progress in a bit more peace. All of this down here on this shelf is going to be sorted out, and it's going to end up on here. That box and the bin is going to end up on that shelf, along with some tools. So hopefully I can clear the floor in here. I then need to stick these back scenes back to that board. I'm not sure whether I'll do that now or after I finish the station. And I just need to declutter in here a bit because it's a bit of a mess, and it's sometimes a bit hard to actually work out what I'm doing. As for the plans for the rest of the day, I've got some more burnt umber paint now because I just about ran out as I was finishing down there. So I'm going to fill in all the gaps in the countryside. Obviously, as I said, I'll be doing some ballasting. Can't do any more on the station at the minute until that dries. I've assembled 2 of the gantries which I had from N brass. They'll just stretch the span of the platform to form the overhead lines. I'm not going to bother with the A-frames or the support pulleys because I'm virtually never going to use these again, so I'm not going to go into too much detail with them. I'll just paint them silver, give them a little bit of weathering, and then they can sit on there nicely when that's all finished. I do need one more because I have bases here for the single masts and bases at the other end as well, although they're a little bit buried in filler. And then I need to have 1, 2, 3 of the gantries so it's evenly spaced and not too stretched. I might start on the static grass today as well if I can, because that's going to take a very long time. Other than that, there isn't a great deal left to do, to be honest. It's obviously ballasting and scenery, and then just the finishing details, and we should be all good. So let's have a bit of a tidy. Okay, so that took a while, but I'm in some sort of state of organisation now. I've got my workbench all set up, which is just storage really. I've got all my scenery items over here, which I probably won't use, to be honest, until I do another nail. But I just don't have anywhere else to put them, so they can all stay up here. Adhesives, airbrush, various tapes, paintbrushes, and assorted things. Got my air compressor up there, so it's finally off the floor. These things will be put away because I'm still using them for this layout. And I've got my paints, all my modelling tools, plastic cards, scenic materials and texture sheets over there. And then obviously the DR5000 set up already, some track which my missus doesn't want me to store inside, so that's staying in here for now. And yeah, so that's all organised. It's allowed that space to be used for the boxes, and the floor, for once, is relatively clear. Sorted out that corner as well because that was a bit of a mess. So yeah, everything's nice and organised now. So we can carry on. I'll do about an hour of ballasting and then I'll continue later on in the evening time. I'll just carry on around here as I'm working through, hopefully, and then I can get all the way around to here done tonight. So yeah, let's continue on. Okay, so this is where we're at the end of day 6, going into our final day. Hopefully we can get most things done on day 7, which will be in a couple of days. So I've done the plaster, the mould for the hillside on both tunnel portals, and I've painted that brown, although it looks a bit like the Chernobyl's elephant's foot. It should create a nice effect when it's covered in the static grass. And speaking of which, I have done the first section. The way I'm going to do it is the embankment will be one type of grass, and then there'll be a hedge surrounding the railway to sort of border it, and then there'll just be separated fields of different types. I've got several different types of static grass here which I can use. The woodland scenic stuff, and then I've got these two. I'm not really sure what company they are, I just found them in the local model shop and I quite like the colour of them, and they do make a nice sort of green colour. I've also finished all the ballasting, so that's a complete circuit now. Some of it's still drying, so I've had to be careful not to get static grass on the ballast while it's been drying. And obviously I need to neaten up some areas where the ballast has dribbled off down the embankment when I've applied the glue. But once that dries, I can just rub it off with my finger and hoover it up. So that concludes day 6. Day 7 will focus mainly on getting all the static grass done, and then the station when the filler dries properly. I've gone through some of the details which I took off the old layout, which I can reuse in the station. I've got some lampposts which I can use. I've printed out some station signs. I'm going to call it Deltan North. Just several variations of Deltan, and then I've got some departure boards, some platform numbers which I can stick to some plastic card and create some signage. So that's all prepared, ready to go, and hopefully we can get most of it done on day 7. That is my new Network Rail NNT by Gauge Master, which I've just bought. I've got some coaches from ARX models coming from eBay to form the full 5-coach rake, and then that'll be nice going around. So that'll be it for day 6, and join me for day 7. Right, welcome to day 6.5. I've got an hour or so in the shed tonight, so I'm just going to carry on with some static grass. This is what I achieved yesterday. This is using a blend of these two colours which I found in my local model shop, and I'm going to move on to that back area now, which is just going to be one colour, and it's going to be my Woodland Scenics Dark. That's just going to be a different colour, so we've got a bit of variation in the fields. And then, like I said, the embankment will be one colour. I'll probably split this into two, and then the hillsides surrounding the station and sort of the areas over here will probably be similar to that colour as well, with a few more bushes and trees to cover up any anomalies in the landscape. Right, that's what I've managed to get done tonight. We've got nice separation of fields, got like a wheaty field here, and more of a grassy one. This one we've got a surrounding muddy edge for tractor access, and then I've made a mixture of all the static grasses I have, which is the static grass from Woodland Scenics medium green, the harvest gold, and then the two colours at the back here which I have, and that's made this nice light green colour which for the embankment which I've got all mixed in there, which I can then use to surround the rest of that. These areas over here surrounding the station and that hillside, and I quite like the colour, to be honest. I think it's a really nice one. So that'll do for tonight. I've also stuck in one hedgerow between the fields, and those hedges will surround all of the borders of the field for the boundary lines. So yeah, that'll be it for tonight. And then we'll go into day 7 tomorrow, hopefully being able to achieve pretty much everything. I know there's one thing I won't be able to do, which is the platform edging on the station. As per the last layout, I'm going to be using the Scale Model Scenery network rail paper sheets, and I don't have any, so I've just ordered those now. They'll be here Monday or Tuesday. And today is Friday, so I've got tomorrow left, and then I'm back at work Sunday night. So that'll be the last thing to do when they arrive. Right, welcome to the final day, day 7, sort of. I know I've had a few extra sessions, but essentially we're on the last day, and I plan to have this layout pretty much done and dusted by the end of tonight. So, what's left to do? We've got some platforms to sand down and paint, and then once they're dry we can get on with some detail on them. We've got all the static grass from the hillside and the embankments to complete. We've got some hedges to stick down around the boundaries of each field, and then we've got some heavier bushes and trees to put around this hillside area to hide some of the bad parts of the scenery. Got some overhead masts to put in, some relay boxes, and I think that's pretty much it. I've got to go through the track and just scratch off any bits of plaster and ballast that shouldn't be where they are, and then just give the whole thing a good old hoover and give the track a clean. I think we can then pretty much say we're done. Obviously I still need to wait for the platform edges to come from Scale Model Scenery, but I can put everything else around those and they'll be nice and finished then. And I'm also waiting for one more of the end brass gantries to come, and then once that's here I can just build that up, paint it and install it. So let's get on, and we'll start off with the platforms. Hopefully they have completely dried. It's been about 3 days now. There's a few cracks where the polyfiller has shrunk, but I can pretty much fill those with paint, so everything should be nice and sturdy and ready for sanding. Okay, after a few hours of productivity, this is the stage I am now at. All of the static grass has been laid. Coming around here, the platforms are ready for their details. I've left the edges messy because they're going to be covered up by the platform edging anyway. When that arrives, got the relay boxes fixed to the trunking in a few various locations. Moving around, all the hedges are in. Static grass on the embankments all done. I've drilled the holes for the overhead masts in the bases, and then I've stuck a few of those in just loosely to see how they look, and I'm really happy with the effect it creates with the overhead masts in. Coming round, all the same, and then I've just painted these backboards some sort of sky blue colour for now to disguise the wood. So it's about 2 in the morning. I've got about an hour before I should probably go to bed. I'm on nights tomorrow, and then I've got my 4 on nights, so I won't be able to get back on the layout until after then. I know now I'm not going to get this done in the time frame I wanted to. There's a big list of jobs still to do, but it should be able to be done in a couple of evenings when I get back on it after nights. So what I'm going to do is I'll end this video here, and then I'll create a part 2 to stop it dragging on too much, more than it already has, and then we can complete the second part. So that will include doing all the bushes and trees on the embankment and hillside areas, and that's going to be more overgrown than these fields, as they'll be kept and mowed and farmed or whatever. So that's going to cover all of the embankment and these fields over here and the areas surrounding the station, and obviously the hillside over there. That's one job, and then I'm going to obviously need to do the station, so that's all the details with the got overhead gantries, we've got signs, people, obviously the platform edging, some bins, benches, all your standard station features. There'll be no station building or anything like that. It's obviously meant to be a quick layout, so we'll just have to imagine that there's access somewhere. Now, one thing that made Great Deltan Mark 1 quite a realistic layout was the fact of I had track weathering. Now, I don't want to go too heavy on the track weathering here because this is meant to be a quick layout. What I will do, however, is paint the sides of the rails in a rust wash, and I'll try and get the chairs as well, and then that'll just darken down the rail heads, and it will look a bit more realistic than what I've got at the minute, and hopefully it should make the sleepers stand out a little bit more too than they already do, because they're quite camouflaged with the ballast at the minute. But that's another job to do, and then I think the only other thing I've got to do then is finish off the overhead masts, and we're pretty much there. I'll probably give a workbench another tidy up, and then we're done. So what I'm going to do now is I've just cleaned the track quickly. I'm going to run some trains, just have a bit of a running session, and then I'll get back on this layout after my night shift, and then that'll be part 2. And these are my new Revolution trains, IZAs. Cargo wagons, I've bought 6 sets of 2. I have heard they pull quite a lot, so hopefully it's not too much for my 37 to handle. We'll just have a few shots of that and my new measurement train going around on the new layout. So thanks for watching, join me for part 2, and bye bye.